Thank you, Jenna. I'm going to talk a little bit about the suicidal zone. When risk factors are high and protective factors are low, somebody enters something that we call the suicidal zone. So how long do you think it is when somebody is in an extremely high risk for death by suicide? This table?
24 hours?
Not 24 hours. Anybody on this table?
20 minutes?
You are much closer. The extremely high risk zone is a matter of hours or a matter of minutes. It's not a matter of days or a matter of weeks. And that's something I didn't know when I first started doing suicide prevention training. So this is something for you to understand. That's why if you ask the question, are you feeling so bad that you're considering taking your life? Have you had thoughts of suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? That's why if you ask that question, you can interrupt the suicidality. That question can make all the difference in the world. And to talk about the difference in terms of the suicidal zone, this short period of time, what you're looking at is trying to see if somebody is giving you direct communication about suicide, which would indicate that someone is at a high degree of risk. And that direct communication for acute risk could be somebody threatening to kill themselves, somebody looking for ways to kill themselves, trying to get access to guns, get access to lethal medication or other lethal ways of killing themselves, or somebody talking or writing about killing themselves, about suicide. Other warning signs, there's 5 main feelings and 5 main behaviors that we look at. No reason for living, no sense of purpose in life, feeling trapped, like there's no way out. Hopelessness. Hopelessness tends to underline a lot of these feelings. Dramatic mood changes, whether they be high changes or whether they be low changes. Anxiety, agitation, and a lot of people are used to thinking about mood changing with suicide, but they don't realize that anxiety and agitation can be a warning sign as well. Behavior, it could be increased substance abuse, withdrawal from family and friends, rage, anger, revenge, reckless or risky activities, or unable to sleep or sleeping all the time. And sleeplessness or sleep problems, whether that be unable to sleep or sleeping all the time, is something that some researchers have pointed out seems to underlie a lot of the risk factors and the warning signs. So these are chronic or moderate risk. And with direct suicidal communication, with this high acute risk, there's key things that you need to do. You take immediate action. You don't leave that person alone. You call 911 or seek immediate help from a mental health professional. And it's very important to take immediate action when it is acute risk. For chronic risk, you take all signs seriously. You don't ignore the signs. And you refer them to a mental health professional, or you call 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255. And that's a number that we'll talk about some more when we talk about suicide prevention resources. One of the things that people will ask us quite often is, what happens if somebody doesn't directly mention suicide? What happens if you just think that they're thinking about suicide? And again, you ask them the question, are you considering suicide? Are you considering taking your life? But what I'd urge you to do is to trust your instincts. If the thought of suicide crosses your mind, assume that it has crossed their mind. Trust your instinct, look for constellations of signs, and understand that the higher the underlying risk factors, the lower the protective factors, the higher the overall risk of suicide. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how people might communicate that they're at risk for suicide. There can be direct and indirect verbal signs. I want to kill myself. I've been thinking about suicide. That's pretty direct, right? What about I just want out, I can't take it anymore? Sometimes somebody may say that and they may be talking, in general. Other times they maybe say that and they're talking about suicide. So you've got to seek more information. You've got to find out what they're talking about. I feel hopeless. It's not worth living. That's kind of indirect, right? People would be better off without me. This perceived burdensomeness, that is something that researchers have also said lately seems to underlie a lot of suicidality, this perceived burdensomeness. And I had thought that that would be more with the elderly, but it's actually across the whole lifespan. We see that with youth, we see that with elderly, we see that with middle ages. Sometimes I just want to go to sleep and not wake up. That's something that you might hear from younger kids who might not talk about death directly, but might talk about it indirectly. So you need to be attuned to that. For those that are considering suicide, there's a part of them that wants to live and a part of them that wants to die. And so you've got to look at these warning signs with an eye to what are the risk factors and what are we hearing beneath the words and beneath their behavior. And that leads us to the next section, is what type of behavior might we see if somebody was at risk for suicide? Just leave me alone? Isolation, somebody that's staying in their room all the time? I can't sleep. Or I've been really wired for the past few weeks. Or all I want to do is sleep all the time. I just wish I could get back at the people who did that to me. Rage, seeking revenge. I want to say stoned, maybe forever. Somebody that's involved in substance abuse. Or do you know where I can get a gun? Or do you know where mom keeps her sleeping pills? Somebody actually seeking out lethal means. Please take my music collection. I'm not going to need it anymore. Somebody giving away belongings. And again, we see this across the lifespan, not just with the elderly. We see it with middle age. We see it with youth. So what can you do when you hear suicidal language or suspect that somebody is suicidal? We'd actually ask you to take the 3 steps. Y'all are familiar with these steps? Let's see if you can say them yourself without me prompting you now. First step.
Ask about suicide. Seek more information. Keep safe. Know how and where to refer.
Again, we want you to feel enabled to take these steps when somebody is in that suicidal zone, when somebody is at high risk for suicide, so that you can make a difference. Jenna is now going to talk about these steps that you can take, about resources, and about saving a life.